Welcome to the next edition of Dr. Plotzker's Mind. I'm going to talk a little bit about some travel, uh, some that I've done, but more importantly, some that is coming up. In the fall, I had to get a new car right after visiting a uh, dear friend who was visiting Annapolis. That was a day trip. The car limped its way home and then became undrivable. With the new car, uh, while it still had temporary tags, I took it to Mammoth Cave, which required uh, 2 days of driving. Uh, the caves were interesting, probably not worth 2 days of driving. We got caught in a tornado. No damage to our hotel. Some uh, siding and roofing shingles torn off at various buildings in the neighborhood, and in the next town, structural damage that was lethal. Uh, in the spring, we did a couple of days of in Washington. That was rather pleasant. Again, a driving day trip. In the summer, I visited the final resting places of my grandparents at different cemeteries in metropolitan New York. Also, a day trip with a side trip uh, tacked on to each. And my son and daughter in law bought a house in Pittsburgh, so we visited there for a few days. Always good to get away, always restful to come home. Uh, but no air travel. That's upcoming. I wanted to visit all the cemeteries in the second half of this calendar year, which requires a trip to Florida. Um, it had been my original intent to take a discounted airfare, stay for a day or two, pay my respects, and go home. But I hesitated too long, so the big discounts were all gone by the time I was ready to book. After some thought, I opted to make it more of a recreational vacation. If I'm going to spend a little bit more, I could have time with friends, many of whom have relocated there. I could enjoy the beach. Um, I might go to the Everglades. There are a number of um, tourist type destinations, recreational destinations. I promised my daughter that we would visit her in San Francisco. That was also supposed to be by the end of the year, but it won't. Instead, it'll be pushed early into the next calendar year. She's going to be moving from Oakland to San Francisco proper. I don't know if her new place will have room for my wife and I to sleep there. As it was in Oakland, it was good not to have to pay exorbitant hotel rates for a week. Um, but we did eat out pretty much every meal, as we did in Pittsburgh. That got to be a bit of a strain. And then in the spring or early summer, I'd like to go to Europe. That was to celebrate my 45th anniversary. The anniversary happened, but the trip didn't. COVID has largely run its course, and tourism is back in vogue. My wife uh, consented not only to go on the trip, but to do the bulk of the planning, as she is the more fragile uh, traveler. It will need some airtime. I'm looking at a guided tour or an escorted tour, but very flexible. What I do need to do is go to someplace different, someplace a little bit foreign, and have some non distracted time with my wife, free from the appointments we each have separately. That's in its early planning stages. I remain optimistic that it will happen, and within a few months, some more definite planning will need to be done, uh, because ultimately there's a limit to how much of my own screens I'm willing to look at. Thank you very much for tuning in. I look forward to people joining me for the next episode of Dr. Plotzker's Mind.